Constructive Criticism is sponsored by Oasis Games. MTGOasis.com is the place to get cards for your next Magic event. Try them out with code CCMTG for 15% off of your first order, and use the code WouldThatBeGood for 4% off of every order. Want to support the show directly? Head on over to patreon.com/CCMTG to check out some awesome benefits and future goals for the show. Thanks for listening, and here's this week's episode of Constructed Criticism. Hello everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Constructive Criticism. I'm your host Spencer, and I am joined by some guests today. We have Sean the Lawbert.
Hello, what's up?
Brandon Clark from Common Knowledge.
Hey everyone.
I hear you guys are here to drop some common knowledge on us today. So Sean and Brandon are here to replace Hall of Famer Seth Manfield and Gold Pro John Stern.
We're replacing them.
Yeah, for the
Upgrade.
week. Upgrade. Yeah, so...
Pro players are out. Pauper players are in.
It's the new Pro Players Club. Obviously, John and Seth are off gallivanting in London, trying to get some of those sweet, sweet mythic points to make sure that they can be in the MPL next year, because maybe that's how that works. Who knows? But...
yeah, I was going to say, do we know how that works? I don't think we know.
No, we don't.
Okay.
But what we do know is that these guys are here, and they're here to talk about hashtag Always Improving this week, and we're really, really excited about that. So, before we get started, I have a special announcement. So, if you are a member of the CCMTG Discord, which you can be, just go to the show notes of the podcast that you're listening to, and there is a link for it. We are bringing contests to our Discord. So previously, we had a Facebook group that many people participated in. I think it got close to 800 or 1,000 members, and it was just for listeners of the podcast that wanted to get better at Magic. And we have a Discord for that right now. And similar to the Facebook group, we had these days of the week and these topics that we would do. But instead of doing topics for the Discord, I'm going to start a swag contest. So every 2 months, we'll have a raffle for people who participate in the Discord through the contests and put them into a raffle. And then we'll give out a Constructive Criticism t-shirt, Constructive Criticism tokens, Constructive Criticism wristbands, and anything else that I can add to the swag bags as time goes on. There will be a couple different types of contests. Anybody can enter them. There will be one for brews or winning decks. There will be one for participating in Pack 1 Pick 1s in the limited part of the Discord. There will even be one for Pauper. If you post a 5-0 list in the Pauper part of the Discord, as well as a screenshot, you will also be entered into the swag raffle. So just kind of get conversations going and celebrate all the things that we love in Magic. So, Brandon, that means if you 5-0, you can get swag.
Oh, members of the network are eligible?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Alrighty.
Brandon has to 5-0 a league first.
I've only done that once in my whole life. But I also play a quarter of the leagues that most people play in, so...
There you go.
I don't know. I feel like my stats are still pretty good.
Also, don't you not finish your leagues because they take so long on MTGO? Because you want to play the competitive ones and you just, drop from them?
I've dropped from a lot of competitive leagues that I'm, 2 matches in and it's been, 3 hours and I'm just like, all right, I'm going to play a friendly league instead.
Yeah.
You don't have to drop from your competitive league to do that, Because I do that. I only drop when I lose 3 times.
I guess I don't drop, but I stop playing it, and then the league season ends, and it's I dropped
it's
9 weeks.
It's basically the same thing. Well, so this week instead of doing a hashtag Always Improving segment, I guess we can if you guys want. Let's do. So hashtag
let's do it.
Hashtag Always Improving is the point of Constructive Criticism and the network. We want to be getting better at Magic all the time. I really do believe that Magic is so complex. There's so many things going on that each and every day, or each and every time you pick up a Magic card, or you read a Magic article, you listen to a Magic podcast, it's an opportunity for you to improve, to take something away from it and get better. And if you're always focusing with the mindset of improving, it makes the job a lot easier. So, each week on the show, when we can, we like to talk about the things that have helped us improve or what we've done to improve at Magic. So this week was a pretty big breakthrough for me. For those who follow me on Twitter or are part of the CCMTG Discord, you know that Guilds of Ravnica, Ravnica Allegiance Limited specifically.
Your favorite format.
I just hated it so.
You love it so much.
I hated it so much, and this weekend was the Game Grid Championship. So we have a local store out here that has a championship series for their players, and I had qualified from it from splitting in the finals of like a 1.5K that handed out invites to the top 2. And so I was qualified for this, and the format was standard, modern, and then a top 8 draft of this format. And so, being the player that I am, and the preparation I like to put into events, I decided to tackle my weakest format, and did a couple of Guilds of Ravnica drafts. I did some with Matt Kling, former host of the show. We just kind of talked about picks, talked about the format, and eventually I started winning. And eventually, I 2-1 the draft, losing in the finals of the Game Grid Invitational this week. And what's really funny is Matt and I were agreeing on everything. I don't know that I was doing something wrong, but I was other than getting off of this hatred that I have of the format. I said, I hate this format, but it doesn't matter because I need to play it, so I'm going to do my best to win. And when I removed when it didn't matter that I hated it, I started winning again, which is so interesting because maybe I could do that with other formats. I hate Modern right now. Maybe if I didn't hate Modern, my win percentage would go up. And it is true though that when I play decks that I enjoy, I do better in Magic. When I play formats that I enjoy, I do better in Magic. And it's something that I think that like on the show, when I early on I was faking some positivity because I wanted to be a more positive person. We did a whole podcast on faking positivity and what it does for your mindset. And I think one of the things that I could do is fake that positivity until I genuinely feel that happiness throughout my time playing different formats in Magic. And I think that would really help because it certainly helped in this moment. Any thoughts on that, Brandon?
Yeah, I think that's actually a really funny perspective because I think I have the opposite problem.
Tell me about that.
I suck at Pauper. Don't tell the listeners, but I love to play Pauper. It's my favorite format. I just always have so much fun when I play it, but then I always find that oh, I missed that and I missed this. But then I have a really high Modern win percentage.
Sure. For what it's worth. And
that format's awful poop garbage.
Yeah. I hate it too. For what it's worth, I do poop garbage called on the podcast. But
come at me at Twitter. Twitter at me, all you Modern people. Poopy diaper garbage.
But I
win at it a lot.
I do think that Pauper is one of the harder formats. I think by a substantial margin, to be honest. I think that it's up there with a lot of legacy decks on difficulty, and I think that that's just what happens when your spells get more, when they get cheaper. It means that you have more decisions to make, and when you have more decisions to make, you have more opportunities to mess up. And
Brainstorm hard.
Yeah,
and Gush.
Brainstorm and Gush are hard cards to play with. I think that it's reasonable for you to be worse at Pauper than at Modern.
That's fair, because I also have some Shahar Shenhar luck in my blood.
Oh, nice.
I think Sean has seen it a lot. That's why I play Modern. I play Infect, I play Bird, I play Storm. I'd pick up Titan and I would learn that deck if I needed to, just because I know that I'll take a Modern deck that can just win games for no reason. And I'm lucky enough to do it. So
sure.
Easy.
Sean, what about you? What did you do to improve at Magic or Life this week?
So I stopped playing our deck of the month and started playing not the deck of the month. We're playing Black-White Pestilence, and what you were saying about the just not liking what you're playing and just kind of faking it. That's what I was doing so bad. I just need to collect data on this, and my win rate was it's 45%, which isn't the worst, but it would line up perfectly so that all of my leagues were 3 losses and 2 wins, and maybe I would get like one that was 3 wins and 2 losses. They weren't like in a streak or anything. And then I was just like, okay, I'm going to burn. Went 0-3 and then switched gears again into Stompy, and then I've just been crushing with Stompy. Like the numbers don't say that the deck is particularly good, and I don't know, there's nothing about it that was really like,
sure,
I don't know, statistically nothing there, but like I just like to play that deck, and I don't know, that's why I think I've had as much luck brewing as I have, is because I just love doing that, and I want the deck to win so bad that I'll just
put all of yourself
will it into happening.
Yeah, I think that as somebody who, you know, I myself, I consider myself a brewer. I qualified for the Pro Tour on my own brew, and you know, I think that there's something about, and it goes back to what I was saying and kind of what you're saying now, just this when you are invested in what you're doing, it's easier to be more successful. So when you're invested, like, it's funny. I do the quest for 10. I don't know if you guys seen the videos for this, but I try to get 10 wins with every major standard deck, and do a video on that standard deck. And it's funny because like if I like am not having fun. So for example, I know Esper Control is probably the best deck in standard. I have the worst win rate with any of the decks in the quest for 10 with Esper Control. And you know, I don't know if that's, like, I don't know how to get over that as a player, but what I do know is that I do enjoy the process, and by enjoying the process, it makes things easier. It sounds like you weren't enjoying the process of your deck of the month.
No, yeah, I don't know, like,
and you like Pestilence.
I like Pestilence.
You top-aided a huge tournament with a Pestilence deck.
Yeah, you literally top-aided the Pauper Championship at GP Las Vegas with a Pestilence deck.
Like,
yeah,
almost the same deck in terms of like how it plays out, just no white cards.
It gets funnier. So when I wasn't playing Stompy or Burn or any of those other things, I've been brewing that mono white control list, which is just mono white Monarch. So
the same deck without black cards.
Yes. And that has been intensely fun, and I have like a pretty decent win rate with that. I'm still trying to get over the hump of solving the blue-black Delver matchup, but once I get over that, I think that deck will have legs. But yeah, I've been willing that deck into having a decent win rate, and my win rate's like, other than that, like 65%.
Sure. Well, I think that what we can take away from this is that, you know, there's got to be a way to find enjoyment in the things that you do. And when you find that enjoyment and you enjoy the process, it probably becomes a lot easier to improve. And I think I saw that this week with I'm not getting as much enjoyment out of that as I am hearing these ambulance noises, but like it's pretty close. It's pretty close. Overall, though, I would say that by removing my hatred for this thing and just saying I'm just going to try to improve and like do the best that I can in this one tournament that I have to draft, you know, my deck ended up pretty good, you know, and I played pretty poorly, but you know, my deck was good enough to get me to the finals, which is what I needed to requalify for the championship. So, you know.
So I just had a weird thought, and I'm going to preface this with, I'm not a neuroscientist, but do you think it's like something like your brain needs to reward you for doing well, and so you learn faster when you're just having fun? Like, and you're just miserable, so you're not picking up on those rewards that your brain is supposed to give you so that you learn quicker? Like, that's just a weird crackpot theory that crossed my mind, but
we could have a neuroscientist on the podcast and ask them that.
That would be great.
I definitely left a voicemail on a certain NBA Center's agent's voicemail this week to ask them to come on Constructive Criticism to talk about hashtag always improving. So I'm not above reaching out to non-Magic playing folks to talk about improving a Magic.
That's freaking cool.
So let's dive into the deck of the week, though. Every time we can, we like to talk about a certain deck on the podcast.
Do I not do a always improving?
Oh, I thought you were piggybacking off of mine. You definitely.
Oh no. I was piggybacking off of yours because I thought you asked me to expand on it.
You know what? You're right. I apologize. Brandon, what did you do to improve Magic your life this week?
Okay, so I actually was really excited to share mine, and that's the only reason I brought it up.
I'm excited for you to share it too, man.
Otherwise, I would have been fine with you skipping me. But like, so I'm kind of in the same vein as Sean right now with I don't enjoy playing this black-white Pestilence deck very much. It reminds me of playing Death and Taxes in Legacy, which is super boring and not fun. So what I've done instead of just like focusing on jamming games and trying to like, okay, this matchup is X and this matchup I'm favored, whatever, I've been diving into like the card choices. And so I found a lot of primers on Reddit, and I've dug into what a lot of like the experts of this deck have been doing. And I've actually discovered that there's like tons of different iterations to this deck. And we're going to be talking about this a ton more on Common Knowledge. So check out Common Knowledge if you guys want to know more about this black-white Pestilence deck. But that's what I've been doing. And I've been looking into like card choices. So like, why are they doing this card? Why this number of cards? Why this? Or like looking at the different variations of the deck. So like, why wouldn't they be playing
when are you recording that episode?
Harvest, next week?
Oh, that's too bad. The one of our patrons on Constructive Criticism, he's actually one of your listeners as well. Kyle is a huge Black-White Pestilence fan, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I know Kyle.
Yeah, and he's
talked about it on Facebook.
Yep, and he's staying at my house for the Salt Lake PTQ. So if you wanted to do a bit with him, I was going to say you're welcome. He's going to be here, but it sounds like you guys will be doing it before then.
Oh yeah.
So
well, maybe we could push it around, like,
because I think we're trying to do it separate. Because before we would do it with the Power Rankings episode,
right,
and I think that we want to do it separately now. So I think we might actually next week is the Power Rankings episode.
It's gotta be.
Yeah, today's the 25th, so next week is Power Rankings. So the following week would actually be that. So maybe we could reach out to him and figure that out. That'd be cool.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool to give a listener of your podcast perspective on it.
Yeah, that'd be way awesome. But yeah, I'll just wrap it up really quick. But you know, there's so many different like variations for cards and why pilots choose to put certain cards in their deck. And now I'm like that. I've kind of gone through that experiment with Black-White Pestilence and seem to have learned a lot. Like I feel like I've learned more about that deck than I did just playing games with it. Now I'm excited to like take that to other decks. You know, like, okay, these are all the different iterations of the decks. These are all the possibilities. Like, what are the benefits? What are the pros and the cons? I don't know. I feel like that was a big level up moment for me. It helped kind of helping me go from like net decker, like, okay, this is the list that a person who is better at Magic than me said to play. So I'm just going to play it and not question it. I'm just going to learn how these cards interact in the format to actually like understanding why is this Magic player, why is this pro saying put X number in a deck or whatever. So I thought it was a cool level up moment for me.
I agree.
And
one of my favorite videos that I do for Wednesday Night Warrior is called Tech Talks, where I go over a deck that's the same deck, but I go over the card differences in 3 to 4 different lists and what I think those cards do to the deck as I examine the deck lists. And it's always been really interesting. There was one time where I didn't know, and I was like reach out, and I got some great listener feedback. So I think that it's really easy to just call somebody a net decker and be like, they just play like this deck that everybody plays. But the intricacies of like, why does this card play this? What matchup is it for? And how does it help that matchup? And understanding that legitimately makes you better at Magic, and legitimately makes you better at picking cards for your deck in the future.
Yeah, I think like a really good example of that are some of the Amulet Titan players in Modern. Like, because there are so many weird variations of that deck. Like that deck did like weird Teetering Peaks technology one week, and then it had like white all of a sudden in it for Path to Exile, and then it was like playing a bunch of negates one day, and just like that kind of understanding of a deck list that you just know week by week, like what my meta looks like, this is how my deck adjusts. I think it separates the standard Magic player, or like net decker, I'm going to say, just for lack of a better term, I guess, from like the best players, you know?
Yeah. All All right, well, let's go on to our next segment this week, which is going to be a deck of the week. We're going to talk about a Pauper deck because we have the guys from Common Knowledge on. So, for those who don't know, by the way, because I'm horrible at intros, Common Knowledge is a Pauper podcast about getting better at Magic the Gathering. It's not about the cost, it's about the knowledge. And, yeah, so this is a deck that we're going to talk about this week that has been pretty dominant and kind of came out of left field. If you haven't been up to date on Pauper recently, you might think that Skred Delver is the best deck. It'll never be topped. No one will ever beat it. And all of a sudden, it is not.
I just want to note that I called this deck like 3 months before it broke out as being insane, when it was like only like 2 people were playing it in challenges. And then all of a sudden it just dominated the format. Granted, that Ultimate Masters had a lot to do with that, but it was good before foil came into the format.
It had an additional 3 delve creatures instead of 3 foils.
Yeah.
And
yeah, you played smart of those guys, but
let's talk about this deck really quick. So the list that we have, we're going to go over here. And we have 4 Delver of Secrets, 4 Augur Bolas, 1 Stormbound Geist. That's one that we'll talk about because I think you guys talked about that on your last podcast. 4 Augur, Gurmag Angler. Sorry, I already said Augur. We have 4 Brainstorm, 1 Ponder, 4 Preordain, 2 Counterspell, 4 Daze, 3 Echoing Truth, 1 Soul Reap, 3 Foil, 3 Snuff Out, 4 Gush, and we have 4 Evolving Wilds, 4 Terramorphic Expanse, 8 Islands, and 2 Swamps. And we'll get into the sideboard a little bit later because I want to talk about the main deck really quick. So, there are a couple of things that stick out to me as somebody that is on and off of Pauper. Like, there will be months where, like, I'll log into the Common Knowledge Pauper account and jam. It's been less since Arena came out, or since Arena got big, to be honest. But usually when I play Pauper, it's like a literal day of playing Pauper. And that's about the Pauper that I play. Historically, Ponder and Preordain have been better than Brainstorm. And this deck went all the way to 8 fetch lands to play Brainstorm. Compared to historically, that just wouldn't happen. Like, Brainstorm was the worst cantrip in Pauper. I mean, obviously, it's the most powerful card in Pauper. So, how did this happen? Oh, whoa, hold on. Sean disagrees with my statement.
I think we both disagree with your statement, but we don't.
I
think we would both argue it's Gush, but
yeah, that's true.
Obviously, it's very debatable and close.
Sure.
And I wouldn't fault anyone for believing Brainstorm, but I firmly believe it's Gush.
Okay. Well, this deck plays 4 of both of them.
Yeah, so who cares? We're just splitting hairs. We're just arguing semantics at this point. Just get the 8 most powerful cards in the game, in the format, into our deck.
But this is a real change, right? Like, people didn't just play 8 Terramorphic Expanses to play Brainstorm in the past. What made this happen, Sean?
The cost of playing your spells, like, to keep up in the format where resources are way more important. You can play 0-cost spells so much in this deck, and like between Daze, Foil, Gush, Snuff Out. Is this playing Gitaxian Probe?
Some lists do.
Not this one, but a lot do. And then you just play like a 1-mana Gurmag Angler. Like, this deck is just so much faster than everything else. And it doesn't even need that extra mana that it can just play tap lands like that without hurting. It's a fast deck that's in 2 colors, which is just completely weird, I feel like.
Yeah, it looks like other lists play a Disfigure over a Snuff Out and then have 4 Gitaxian Probes, but still 18 lands. This one's all in on the fetches. It looks like some lists play 1 Ash Barrens, 2 Evolving Wilds, or 1 Ash Barrens, 2 Terramorphic Expanse. What do you guys think is correct as far as the fetch land mana base goes? The Ash Barrens is interesting to me because the only thing it really casts in your deck is really Augur Bolas, right?
Well,
you cycle it, right?
Yeah, I'm saying, like, if you needed the untapped mana, that's the only thing that you could do with it. Otherwise, it's just a colored source of whichever color you want the turn that you would have played in Evolving Wilds.
So, a couple of things. in favor of Ash Barrens is, one, like you said, you get that color immediately. This was really important in the Scred Delver versions, where having an untapped red source on curve or on the turn you needed was really important. This deck less so, because you can still Evolving Wilds to fetch basic Swamp and cast Snuff out. But the one thing that what's the name of the card? Ash Barrens. Ash Barrens has going for it in this deck is it gets basic island into your hand to cast foil. And that's really important when you don't have Gush.
Sure.
And so I always like to play a split of fetch lands and Ash Barrens. You usually don't want more than three. Three's kind of pushing it. I personally do like 7 fetches. I go like 2 Evolving Wilds, 3 Terramorphic Expanses to Troll Sean, and then like 2 Ash Barrens.
Why does that troll Sean?
It bothers Sean that Evolving Wilds isn't like a higher played percentage, and that's because people also like will play Terramorphic.
That's just the reporting that I'm mad at mostly.
I will play a split in all of my decks, like 2 Evolving Wilds, 2 Ash Barrens, just to get at Sean.
All right. Okay.
So
7.
But yeah, that's Ash Barrens. It gets you the color on curve. And in this deck in particularly, it gets you basic island into your hand for your foil.
So what is the I mean, 7's a lot, right? Like, how many did Scred play? It played 5, maybe 3.
6.
They play 6.
Yeah,
so,
you're usually playing like
and that
deck is like 3 Ash Barrens,
yeah.
like 3 to 4 Evolving Wilds, so 6 to 7 also.
But that deck also played Brainstorm, right?
Not before Ash Barrens. When Ash Barrens was printed, it started going to like 2 copies.
Okay. And
that became common.
Yeah, so it's a pretty big departure from the days of Preordain and Ponder being the top dogs on the cantrip world. So that do you have any thoughts onto why that might have happened as well, Sean?
The cantrips or the fetches and Ash Barrens?
Well, the cantrips specifically is what I want to get at.
My general feeling for the cantrips, which I feel like I'm worse with cantrips than most people, but that doesn't actually play out in the games. I just hate casting them. That's just a lot of thinking.
It is. They're hard cards to play with.
Sean plays Tron in Modern too, so there you
go. So send your hate this way.
And Affinity. Yeah, that's me. I want to speak to what I know the best with the fetch package. I prefer less Ash Barrens because they can make keepable hands, otherwise keepable hands, unkeepable if that's all you've got. So that's why I prefer those. You want to have a lot of fetches to fuel your Gurmag Angler, and you don't actually need those lands to come in and get that color immediately most of the time, almost any of the time. Like you can fetch to get a tapped swamp so you can play a Snuff Out, or you can get a tapped land to play like Daze or Gush or whatever. So I think if I take this deck out again, I'll probably be more close to this, probably like 1 Ash Barrens. Sure. You said 3 was probably pushing it, and I think 3 is just flat too many.
Yeah, I think in this deck 3 is probably right out.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. The Scred version of the deck 3 was a little better because it was more important to have red mana on curve untapped.
Yeah, but there's not actually a difference between, like, are you saying you're tapping an island to get a red mana? I don't.
Yeah, it's like I have to cast Scred right now. Tap my island, cycle, get my mountain, cast Scred.
I see. Okay.
I've got to be able to cast it. That's way more important in the Scred versions of the deck. Whereas, like Sean said, and like I said earlier, you can just fetch tapped Swamp and cast Snuff Out, or fetch tapped Island, cast Daze or Gush. Like, this deck doesn't care as much about having that mana untapped right away as much as it just cares about putting lands into the graveyard for Gurmag Angler. And so, in that sense, these fetch lands are just almost better because they never put you in that awkward spot of like, my 2-lander was Ash Barrens, Ash Barrens.
So I think the next key card that we should probably talk about is the card Days. What in the world is this card still doing legal in Pauper?
Oh, one second. I'm done stalling about the cantrips, and I have, I have things to say there.
Okay.
I don't know if you understand. We edit our podcast, so I can just sit here and think for a while.
Yeah, we do.
So you're playing 4 Brainstorm, 4 Preordain, and 1 Ponder. I feel like Brainstorms are functioning as putting away cards that you don't want, and like, I just don't think you keep on Ponder as much. You're not searching for a key card that's just like, I win. You're just looking for as many action spells as possible and throwing away everything else. So it's just keeping your threat density as high as possible and sorting like that. And Ponder, I feel like, is just good at finding specific things more.
Yeah, I think that for me, as somebody who plays a lot of combo decks that involve Ponder and Pauper, that also involve Kiln Fiends, like, just the power level overall of Ponder in a deck that is looking for a specific thing is much higher. Whereas when you're just trying to get advantage, which is what Delver decks are trying to do, it's just completely different. You're just trying to eke out every advantage you can get, and when you're doing that, Brainstorm's just a better card.
Yeah, so I kind of agree with Sean, but I kind of disagree. And sorry, I know you want to move on from cantrips, but just one really quick.
Go for it, man.
So Preordain is just the best cantrip in Pauper, and so that's just the auto like 4 of.
It is.
But in this deck in particular, what is appealing about Brainstorm is you have such this just array of answers, right? So we've got our Dazes, we've got Echoing Decays. This deck's playing a random Soul Reap over the second Ponder for some reason. Foil Snuff Outs. Like, you have such a wide variety of answers that don't always line up well in the format. So I don't know, your opponent's got a couple of core Skyfishers, and your only removal spell in hand is like Echoing Decay. That's not great. So Brainstorm is so great at filtering out that fluff and getting you the exact answer that you need.
Oh, okay.
And that's why you're playing it over the Ponders, and that's why you're making that sacrifice on your consistency and your mana base to play so many tapped fetch lands.
Just to be clear, that is not where I thought you were going to go. I thought you were going to talk about how great Preordain was at all of this, and I was like,
oh no, I was just
man, Brainstorm's so much better. All the things you're saying.
I was saying all the reasons for this setup of 4 Brainstorm, 1 Ponder, for Preordain. Preordain is the auto-include 4 of, and then after that, your Brainstorms and your Ponders are fighting for your slots. And I was just kind of advocating for why Brainstorm's going to take up all those slots that it can.
Got it.
Also, Foil. I don't think that you can play Foil without 4 Brainstorm.
Sure.
Like, it's just so crucial that, like, I have no islands, I get rid of this Foil. Or, like, I've got this Foil, I need to find an extra island. Brainstorm just becomes much more important at that point.
Replace these cards in my hand with an island and something stupid.
Yeah.
To pitch those and have just good cards on top.
Yeah.
So let's talk really quickly about the sideboard of the list that we have on our screen. It's 2 Dispel, 3 Hydroblast, 2 Counterspell, 1 Curse of the Chains, 1 Miscalculation, 2 Shrivel. We don't have the 1/1 split here. We got 2 Soul Reap and 2 Stormbound Geists. So 3 Stormbound Geists in the 75. What match for those 4?
Flying.
Stormbound Geists are really good in Delver matchups.
Okay.
Matchups where attrition is very, very important. Those games a lot of times just revolve around resolving Stormbound Geists, and oftentimes the first player to do it will be able to run ahead of the game. Just having this threat in play that you almost don't care about what they do to, because they're going to have to 2-for-1 themselves. Well, and so you can just spend the rest of your time holding up counter magic for their threats or killing their threats, whatever, because you've got such a powerful threat in play already. That's kind of Stormbound Geist steal.
I mean, it's even good in Monarch matchups.
Yeah, true.
The top 2 decks, like in the Mirror and in the Monarch matchup, which is the top decks, Stormbound Geist is one of the best cards you can play.
Mm-hmm.
So
it is bad in a lot of places, though. I want to say that. It's like when it's good, it's the best card in your deck, and when it's not good, it's the worst card in your deck.
Yeah, I heard you say that on your podcast this week.
Yeah, it's like sometimes you'll play against Stompy and you'll draw your one main deck Stormbound Geist and just be like, oh crap, I'm done.
It's so worth it though. I feel like that the more important matchups, it's just so good. And then you do have Brainstorm. Like you can avoid having to cast a 3-mana spell.
Awesome. So it looks like most of the sideboards that I'm looking at are within very few cards of each other. Some lists play different things. This list is playing a Miscalculation. It's playing Dispel. Some lists, it's not playing a Null, I should say. A lot of lists play things like a Null to try and deal with artifacts. What are the must-includes you guys think for Blue Black Delver in their sideboard if somebody's going to pick up this deck and try and jam Pauper this week?
Dispel and Hydroblast.
Yeah, I still say Stormbound Geist too. So.
Oh yeah, sure, Stormbound Geist. Yeah. Like those three.
It looks like every deck is playing some number of Shrivel effects, and every list is playing some number of additional Soul Reaps as well.
Yeah. I like
Shrivel
playing
for
Nausea personally, because they've got the guy like smelling his feet.
Yeah.
Card.
So it looks like most lists actually play one Nausea, one Shrivel that I'm looking at.
I'm not sure what the split is about. Maybe just to troll Sean some more.
No, I believe it's just always correct to split.
There's no difference.
No, there is a difference.
Like,
this is classic.
Yeah, they could put on here.
You don't know how many copies that they could be playing if there's a split. So, like, if I only cast one of these cards against you, the most I could possibly play in my deck is 4. If I play both of them, you could be like, dude could be playing 8. Also,
I would literally I don't think any competent Magic player is going to think that you have 4 Shrivels, 4 Nausea in your sideboard. I think that any competent Magic player will see a Shrivel and go, I can expect to see 1, maybe 2 more -X effects out of my opponent.
In other formats, you have...
in other formats, they therapy you, and it's very important to have splits on your cards.
Yeah, you could have Cabal Therapy, you could have Surgical Extraction.
It's why Death and Taxes plays a split on island or plains and snow-covered plains. It's to play around Portent out of the Miracles matchup.
There you go.
Or not Portent. The 2-mana, say a card, if it's on the top, draw 2 cards or whatever.
Oh, I know what you're talking
Predict
about.
or something?
Predict, yeah.
You play around Predict that way. So yeah, it's important in other formats. Pauper, it's not relevant because there's just nothing that cares. So
isn't it the same logic as like playing all of the same art on your land of like if you play one and then you play a second one or something like
if like they duress you and see that you have a Shrivel in your hand and then you draw a Nausea and you cast the Nausea because you're not thinking and then they go, okay, you still got Shrivel.
The land one is because you don't put a lot of thought into which land you play for the turn when they're the same land, right? However, I can see that my opponent wrote down Shrivel, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's just like one more thing to think about, though. Like when you're dedicating so much of your mental space to focusing on a game, it's like, do I really want to be focused on which exact copy of a spell my opponent wrote down?
That's true.
I would rather just go for that. I don't know. I think you have to have equity of some kind. So like I get equity out of having the Nausea art where the dude's like sniffing his stinky feet because I think it's funny. And I get equity out of playing an XX split on Evolving Wilds Terramorphic Expanse because I know that deep down it bothers Sean.
It doesn't.
It does.
That's the placebo effect. You're just like, yes, it does. And I'm just like, right, whatever you want.
So
you talked about how much it bothers you.
We'll move on from stinky feet and from Fetchland splits. And let's talk. This is what happened when you invite Pauper guys on your podcast, for what it's worth.
I'm all about that equity, man. You got to get equity any way you can.
Where does this deck stand right now? Because
the best deck in the format.
Top. Yeah.
So it's been 2 months, is that right? 3 months?
I believe, I think
January.
Alex Ullman has been gathering data on this deck since Eternal Masters dropped and this deck got big. And this deck accounts for 44% of all top 8 finishes in challenges for the last 4 months. Almost half.
So
he just said Gush decks. That could include.
He did. You're right. He did just say Gush decks and
Tribe.
Remind me tomorrow. Don't restart my computer right now, please.
You guys are a hoot. Okay, so it's the best deck. What are some tips and tricks that people can expect that they probably want to know before picking up this deck and jumping into their first competitive Pauper League to make Brandon stay better?
Do you want to tell him, Sean, or should I? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Go for it. You know I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, you know. Gush is not an instant. You have Gush on your main phase. Unless you have Ninja of the Deep Hours in your deck, then you can do it in your combat step.
Never gush to try to find a foil, ever. Stop it. That's bad. So this is just going to be a gush tutorial. Are you ready, Spencer?
I gushed the other day at instant speed to find a counterspell of some kind because I was dead otherwise, and I found the counterspell and felt.
Well, if you're dead otherwise, okay.
Yeah. So let's talk about Gush. So obviously the hard cards to play in this deck are Brainstorm and Gush. Like those, obviously, one of them is a 1-mana draw 3, and one of them is a 0-mana draw 2 that puts you pretty back far on tempo. So obviously, both of them would be difficult to play. We've already talked a little bit about Brainstorm, so yeah, talk about Gush.
I feel like I'm done.
You were like, you had this soapbox. You're like, don't do these things. If you do, you're dumb. But like, what should they do? Talk about that.
So Gush is most powerful in your main phase because you're not losing that tempo on mana immediately. So if I Gush on your end step,
you're down.
I'm untapping, down 2 mana sources that I could be using to advance my board state, kill your creatures, cantrip, whatever. So you want to Gush on your main phase, especially when you haven't made a land drop yet. So you can float your 2 mana, Gush, play a land, and now all of a sudden you're up a land. So Gush can also work as a way to make land
You're
drop.
still down a land.
Well, you're up a land that turn. Like you're up a mana.
You wouldn't have made a land drop.
You wouldn't have made a land drop.
Sure.
You can Gush and then have your land drop.
Oh, if you don't have a land in hand. I get what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah, maybe I didn't I probably didn't make that very clear, but that's what my brain was thinking. You guys should just know.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. You don't have a land drop in your hand. You can actually cast Gush to make your land drop for the next 2 turns, and be up cards.
Mm-hmm.
But this to go off of Gush, I feel like this deck is really about, like every counterspell deck, choosing what you counter. The more things you can be fine with and just hold on to those counterspells, the better off you're going to be. Like in the mirror, when I was playing this, I kind of found that even letting Gurmag Anglers resolve was fine if you're just using your Gurmag Angler as a kill spell. Sure. And just kind of grinding them out there and fighting over something that's going to gain you advantage. Like you can 1-for-1 them there, but there's your Stormbound Geist is going to definitely 2-for-1 them. Your Gush you can protect, 2-for-1 them there.
Yeah. How much do you guys think the Augur of Bolas has played into the changes in Modern? Or in Pauper.
Modern?
In Pauper, sorry.
I was gonna say that's not Pauper.
Sorry, I don't have the button there. So that's not Pauper. What do you guys think that the change Augur Bolas has made to Pauper is?
It's stopped Stompy and Red Deck wins, and I feel like it's made it grindier.
I want to say that to an extent, Augur Bolas might be one of the more unhealthy cards in the format. I think it's in the conversation of pressing like Gush is.
It's taken combat off of the ground. Like if you're trying to attack on the ground, Augur of Bolas is just flat in your way.
Yeah, I mean
it's another card that you can just okay, you've played a 2x. I can now ignore that forever thanks to my Augur of Bolas that's gotten me advantage.
Right.
Yeah, and if Stompy wastes their kill spell or their pump spell on your Augur of Bolas, you feel so good. Because now he's drawn you a card, gotten a card out of their hand, and sucked up a ton of damage. And you just have that much more time to mess around with your cantrips. That was a big problem that decks had in the past was Delver decks would spend so much time spinning their wheels cantripping, and Augur Bolas kind of like gave them the time to do that.
So I don't know if my last trophy was with Izzet Blitz, Mono White Devotion, or the deck that I'm about to talk about, but the deck that I'm about to talk about has 0 5-0s on Goldfish right now, and that's that might also have 0 for what it's worth.
Yeah, I'm just trying to guess the decks that I know you like.
Izzet Blitz.
No, Izzet Blitz has 5-0s, but the deck that
Oh,
but the deck that I'm referring to is the red aggro deck, just the all-out red aggro, which was just every single 1-mana 2/2 at common. And that deck literally doesn't have a 5-0, and I think that you could safely assume that the reason for that is Augur Bolas.
That and people are playing Echoing Decay.
Yeah, that doesn't help either. But, I mean, you had a pretty big split between what your 2/2s were. So it's...
Well, the Red Deck Wins existed in the same meta as Augur of Bolas when Skred Delver was the top deck.
That's true.
But it was when Echoing Decay stepped into the scene that deck just went away.
Yeah.
Never came back.
So I think that a lot of things had to do with that. And one is just the fact that this deck is just more consistent than the Skred deck is on its mana in particular. The Skred Delver deck really struggled to get its mana into place because of how important having untapped red sources were. And so now you're playing... We talked about all the problems with Ash Barons before, right? Now imagine that you're under the pressure that the red deck puts on you and you're killing one creature a turn. It made things really tough on the Skred decks.
Well, we've never seen a deck that plays Brainstorm in Pauper as well as this deck. This is the best Brainstorm deck there ever has been.
Tyler's Tribe. I'm going to still argue Tyler's Tribe is the best Brainstorm deck in the format.
Okay, but like...
yeah, okay.
Tyler's Tribe isn't that good.
No, like, it's a good Brainstorm deck.
It's a good Brainstorm deck, but it's just not that good.
I don't know.
I love this.
Brainstorm.
I love this.
It uses Brainstorm.
If you guys want to hear more of this conversation, head on over to Common Knowledge, a Pauper podcast about getting better at Magic the Gathering.
Go back 2 weeks and look up our Tireless Tribe episode when that deck like crushed the challenges.
Whoa, did it have like 30 points?
I'm not saying it's better than this deck.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. This is the better deck that plays Brainstorm. This is the best.
It's the better Brainstorm deck.
Yeah.
Guys.
Anyway, my point is not semantics, Brandon. My point is just like the deck that makes the best use of Brainstorm and Gush. Shut up, Brandon. Is like... That's what makes it so good, and all of the free spells.
I'm not editing this out for what it's worth. I thought that was great.
We argue, okay?
John told me to shut up.
Okay.
So I agree with everything that Sean is actually saying. I am kind of just being a putz, but
okay.
This guy plays Brainstorm very, very well because of all those free spells that he said. Like it just has so much utility that it draws out of the Brainstorm.
So,
boom, right again.
Best deck in Pauper, best Brainstorm deck in Pauper. Try it out. This deck costs...
Let's try it.
This deck costs, 80 ticks. So it's a more expensive Pauper deck, but it's way cheaper than a standard deck. If you want to get into Pauper, it's the best deck right now. And it's I think that Pauper's great value for what it's worth on MTGO. If you're looking to make a couple bucks on MTGO, get better at Magic, Pauper's a great way to do it. So let's move on to our training grounds this week. Every week on the podcast, we want to help you get better at Magic the Gathering. Training grounds is a card from Rise of Eldrazi that makes level ups a little bit cheaper, and we want to do that for you. So, that being said, let's talk about one of the biggest concepts of constructive criticism and also common knowledge, because common knowledge was started to help players improve at Magic through Pauper and a more affordable way to play Magic. And, I think that something that you and Sean have done a really good job of on Common Knowledge is focusing on Pauper and ways that you guys can get better through Pauper and going through that journey with the listeners. And that's valuable. That's something that, a lot of people want to just come on a podcast and say, dude, I know what I'm talking about. Do what I say. If you don't do what I say, you're dumb. And you guys don't take that approach. You guys say, I don't know. Here's what I'm learning, and here's how I'm getting better, and here's what I've learned. And if I'm wrong, shoot me a message. And you guys get emails. You guys get great responses from your listeners because you take that approach of I don't know everything, and I'm not going to pretend to know everything, and I want to hear from you to improve with you. And I think that really highlights what Always Improving is about. You know, Always Improving was started because of a job that I had where we had a kind of a mantra at work, which was always be improving. Be better at work today than you were yesterday, and if we all do that every day, we'll be the best company in the world. And I thought, you know what? That applies to Magic. If I'm always doing what I can to learn and be better, then it becomes easier. I'm focusing on that improvement. And for me, it has been this part of my life that's changed who I am. I will just say this on the podcast. I have gotten a substantial raise every year of my life in work since I adopted Always Improving. I'm talking like $20,000, $8,000, $10,000 raises. Just from adopting this mindset into my life where I don't know everything. There's just not going to be a world where I do that. But what I do know is that it was actually really interesting. I had a boss at the same job that started Always Improving, and he said to me, we were in a one-on-one conversation. He was my manager, and he said, "Listen, Spencer, I don't know the answer to all your questions. I'm never going to know the answer to all your questions. The thing that I've gotten good at in my career and in life is if I don't know the answer to a question, I will find the person that knows the answer and direct them to the person asking the question, so that as a leader and as a person, we're both improving at the same time. It's not my job to know the answer to all your questions because that would be unfair to me." And it was something really interesting that I applied to Magic. I'm never going to know how to play every single deck, but I know how to get the information if I need it. I'm never going to own every card in Magic. I'm never going to play every card in Magic. But if I surround myself with people, and I surround myself with a mindset to allow me to get the information that I need when I need it, it will make that improvement a lot easier. And that's kind of what Always Improving has been about for me. Brandon, I know that you have gone through an interesting journey in Magic that's actually kind of similar to mine in some ways. You know, you started playing PTQs and PPTQs, then life changed. You started going to school, you have kids, and these things changed in your life where Magic had to take a back seat, and when that happened, Pauper became available to you as a way to continue that competitive drive. How did you apply the things that you were doing in PPTQs and PTQs and apply them to Pauper to still be trying to improve at Magic?
I think the biggest hurdle for me to overcome was to understand I guess just accepting that Magic was going to play a different role in my life than it had, where I was going to PPTQs every single weekend, and I was, always focused on those things. And now I all of a sudden have other things to focus on. Magic had to take a step back, and I think that was really hard for me at first, and to find a balance. And Pauper really helped me to find that balance because of how easy it is to play Pauper online on my schedule, on my time. I just jump into a league and just jam whenever I can, when I've got the chance. Whereas, and I guess that it was kind of cheating because I kind of really didn't do anything. I just stumbled upon this format that one of my best friend played and loved, that I ended up loving, and it just happened to fit into my schedule, my routine. So I feel like I kind of cheated the system there. Everything just worked out great. But in terms of like improving, you can apply always improving to anything in your life, anything at all. And I know I apply it to cooking right now, because right now that's my number one priority, is becoming the best chef I can be.
It's really easy to, as somebody who took culinary classes, it's really easy to apply it to cooking.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's very easy because cooking is very technical. And so it's very easy to say, this is where I messed up. You know, I need to cut back on this ingredient, maybe add this. It's really easy to quantify where you've messed up. And I think it's actually a lot harder in Magic. And so I actually wanted to come to you guys with a question of how you apply always improving. Because I really like to use SMART goals.
Yeah, I remember your
Jon
podcast on
SMART
that.
goals. Yeah, I've talked about SMART goals before. Yeah, it's an acronym for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based. I love to make a goal for myself and then go through that checklist. And I think that's really hard in Magic because it's hard to like quantify results. Because
and not only that, but for somebody like you play, you probably play what, six to 7 leagues a month, somewhere in there.
Oh
maybe.
Gosh, 4 or 5 on a good end. Yeah,
Sure.
1 a week.
Yeah,
about one a week.
1 a week, and then you play, maybe 1 to 2 local events when you can.
Mm-hmm.
And for you, you're playing 40% less Magic or more, sometimes 150, 200, 300% less Magic than other people, right? So when you think about you as a Magic player, you have to think about you have to maximize those opportunities to learn. And this is, by the way, one of the reasons that I created the Quest for 10 challenge for myself, because like you, I have a 2-year-old now. I think your son's 4. Is he 4 or 5? 5. Yeah. So you're going through something similar where you only have so much time in the day, and so for me, it's like, okay, what can I do to maximize my time? And so by doing #Quest for 10, I was able to focus in on something and try and improve and learn about that specific thing, and then go do a video about it, talk about it, and help others improve with it. So while I'm improving, I'm doing that thing for other people. And by focusing in on the things that I need to do to make myself do Quest for 10 and be better by the end of Quest for 10 and learn about decks, my results this is in the Discord, but my results are just better than they were about a year ago. I think I made, I chopped for about $600 last weekend at the Invitational. I chopped multiple top 8s for another, couple $100 2 weeks before that. I got Mythic and Arena the 2 months that I tried, and it was my results are just so much better since implementing this Quest for 10 than they were before. And that happened from going into this always improving mindset and saying, Spencer, you're not always improving right now. And the reason you're not is because you just log on to Arena or you log on to MTGO, you jam your games, and then you go do whatever you're going to do. And you just jam them because you're supposed to. That's the thing you're supposed to be doing for your podcast, for your brand. And it's like, okay, but what did that get you? And by implementing Quest for 10, for me, it was like, I now have this measurable thing. I'm trying to get 10 wins with the deck, and then go back and say, what did I learn? What do I think of this deck? Where do I think this deck stands? What would I play if I were to play this deck? What is the deck list that I would run? Make a video about it, and move on to the next thing. If I were to encourage you, as the host of Common Knowledge, to do anything, it would be to do the same thing. Create a Quest for 10 series for yourself or Pauper. Go through all the major decks in Pauper, do a Quest for 10 for them. And I think you'll find that you learn something that you didn't expect to learn, and that you are, even when you hate it, because you enjoy the process of learning the way that you do, if you think about your life, the way you do school, the way you do Magic, you'll find that your results will just come up by themselves, because you're focusing on the process more than you're focusing on the action. And in doing that, your results will rise naturally. Anyway, that was my long spiel. Sean, what about you? What would you do for Brandon to help him be always improving?
What would I do for Brandon?
Yeah, that was his question.
Yeah, how do you guys?
What would you do in Brandon's position to be always?
And I think you're a really good one to answer this question, because I know that you don't think about goals the same way as I do. And it's hard for me to apply the SMART acronym to Magic goals, because I don't like taking results. It's like Spencer said, it's about the process. The results come. So what's your method? How do you like know that you're improving? Like you could win a league, but did you actually learn anything, or like, did you improve, or did you just happen to win a league?
I don't know. It's kind of tough for me because I feel like that's how I've always played Magic. Like I've never been trying to take down any kind of tournament or whatever. I'm just playing the game so I can improve. Like that's the whole goal to begin with. So there's not like a difference there or anything. It's the curiosity for me of like what would these cards do together? How would that work in the meta? Like back to that mono white control list. I've been playing a lot of that, so I talk about it a lot. I'm learning how Monarch, the mechanic, is fitting into the meta, even though I'm not playing the actual Monarch deck. Like people side out Monarch cards against the Delver deck, even though the Monarch mechanic is easily the most powerful mechanic in that deck. And like I had just never known that before, so just exploring and not just grinding to be the best at your one deck, of just like, I don't know, like lately I'm logging all of my games and trying to figure out the whole meta one deck at a time. I just like have a grid that I'm trying to fill in all the bubbles on. I think I've sent it to you guys and it's like halfway done, but
yeah. And if you want to participate in that, Sean has opened the invitation to log games with you, right?
Kinda. Like I sent it out and literally no one took me up on it, so I was like, fine, I'll do it myself.
but he did open the invitation, so if you are interested in helping Sean figure out the Pauper format, reach out to him. But
yeah, if you go to Lobert8 on Twitter, I'll repost it where I'm currently at. I think I'm going to get more corrections and arguing people than actually filling in bubbles that I haven't already filled in.
Sure.
So yeah, I'll throw that up there.
Sure. So Brandon, what is your takeaway from? I mean, Sean and I think we're saying similar things, right? It's about it's about expanding and exploring, and I would encourage you to, even if it's not making videos or something, do the quest for 10, track your results, get 10 wins with every Pauper deck that you can. You have this, you got this sweet sponsorship from Pure MTGO to fill out that MTGO collection.
You said like maybe not recording, but I think that might be a good step for Brandon of like, even if you don't edit your videos, even if you just start recording, don't talk the whole time and put it out there. Having just that out there, I think is something. Somebody like there's a weird pressure to that I never anticipated would make me better. I really think you should just make a crappy video and put it out there.
Well, not only that, but you talked about one of your things is you wanting to be accountable, right? And when you create a process for yourself, one of the things that people have asked us to do, for example, on this podcast that we will do is to do a podcast with John Stern, because John's about his process in tracking his results and setting goals for himself, because John is obsessed with that. And when I started the quest for 10, I suddenly didn't have a choice. Even though I hated playing mono red, I hate playing mono red in standard, I was just gonna do it. And like the thing is though is that I enjoy content creation, and I enjoy learning so much that it became fun, and it became an opportunity for me to get better. And I think that there's lots of things that we can apply that to in life. There's lots of opportunities for us to I mean, Pauper is such a good example of this, because in Pauper, it's about, like, Pauper is literally for the love of the game, right? Like, if you're talking about a format that's just put together, not for like this ultra high competition, but just for, I love Magic the Gathering and I just want to play Magic. Pauper is that thing. And if you love Magic and love to learn, Pauper's a great way to do it.
That was something I wanted to bring up at some point in this podcast of like, I've told Brandon this before of like, he was just like, I just feel like my core mechanics of the game are not where they're supposed to be at right now. Like I used to be better than I am right now. What's going wrong? And I was just like, play Pauper, because it just gets your very basics together, because you can't, there's no board wipes. You have to figure out how to play your spells in a certain order so you never get behind. Try to get in every point of damage, because it's just so like you're both standing there with a stick and you're just like tapping each other. Like it's just very incremental, and I think that makes you better at the game when you go somewhere else. And sequencing, I feel like is less do or die. Is that like true, or am I just crazy about my format?
No, I actually don't think you're wrong. I think that when you look at Pauper as a format, right, you just have less haymakers. So one of the things that haymakers do in Standard and in Modern and in Legacy is if I cast Jace the Mind Sculptor and it resolves in Legacy, I'm probably 80% to win that game. Like that's just it. I'm gonna brainstorm, and then I'm gonna brainstorm again, and I have a Jace in play, and you have to devote resources to killing my Jace. And, you know, I'm just so far ahead. And that just doesn't happen in Pauper. And it's so about getting down to the little things and doing the little things right over and over and over and over again. And when you make a mistake in a format where you have to do things right over and over and over again, the player who does that more than the other player is just going to win more often.
Yeah, I've said it before, it's a lot like Limited. I always feel that the best Magic players are also some of the best Limited players, and I think that Pauper applies to that just the same. It's like Sean said, you're honing those kind of Magic fundamentals a lot, and it's something that I actually picked up a lot from my wrestling coach in high school, because all 4 years of high school, we did the same drills every single day. The same basic drills. Like, this is how you do a 2-leg takedown. This is how you do a single leg takedown, etc. And one day, one of the other wrestlers was like, "Coach, this is so boring. Can't we do something else?" And it was just like, no. Like, if you don't have these fundamentals as just like muscle memory, then how can you expect to be able to pull something else off in a match, something more complex? I think that Magic is like the exact same way. And that's one thing that's drawn Pauper to me so much, is it's like playing constructed Limited.
Sean, you talked about your want to learn, your want to improve, your want to, you know, put things together, and kind of the process is actually the thing that you enjoy. I don't know if you ever listened to an episode of Constructive Criticism before you joined Common Knowledge. I would assume you didn't, but you fit really well.
I've listened to one, and it was the Pauper episode. So the little full disclosure here. Yeah, I've listened to one.
Oh man, I don't know the last time we did a Pauper episode before this one. It
was like episode 200 something.
Yeah. I went way deep in the archives. I listened to your John Finkel episode.
That is reposted for those who want to listen. Yeah, I think you fit really well into what we stand for, and you know, it was a really easy ad for you to be a part of this kind of family. Why do you think you fit so well into the mold of what we preach and what we want to do?
I mean, isn't that up to you?
Hey,
the boss.
I'm not.
Our fate is in your hands.
It's so funny because like, I own Common Knowledge, right? Like it's literally like this thing that like
it is your IP.
Yeah, it's literally my thing. But I don't do anything on it anymore. Since Sean took over, I don't need to. There's not like direction that I need to give, because you two are also so focused on getting better, explaining Pauper, that there's nothing for me to do on it. And I think that, Sean, your attitude towards improving and making the show better and making the things that you do better is the reason that it's so easy.
Isn't life just boring if you're not trying to get better at it? Like, seriously, like,
I feel like
Brandon and I met
60-70% of the world's population don't have that mindset.
Yeah,
that's the thing, though. But like, Brandon and I met at Little Caesars. I interviewed him, and got it, helped him get the job, and freaking.
That's how we met, was in the interview.
Yeah, that was the first time we met, as I was interviewing him. And honestly, like, I still think this, I can do literally any job besides that horrible insulation job we also had together where I broke my rib. I could do any job and I would be happy because I can. Yeah, I fell through a roof, but I could do any job and be happy. I was like, if I made 50,000 making pizzas, that would be great. Like, that job was so not stressful, but I was like determined. Like, I was just like, I'm going to be the best person here at this stupid job, because it's just boring if you're not. Like, the only things I'm not trying to improve at are things that I find incredibly boring. And even those, like, I'm trying to make them less boring by doing them more.
It's funny. I had a conversation with a boss once. It was actually a better conversation. It's my first day at my new job, the job I have today. And, like, we're going through this onboarding and, like, just, like, talking about, you know, being, you know, what the work is, and like, they're like, what are your goals here? And I was like, I looked at the guy training me, and I was like, I want to be better than him in 1 year. And they were like, what? We're like training you to do. I'm like, yeah, I want to be the best at what I do. You know, it might not be attainable. I don't really care if I'm not the best, but if, like, I'm always trying to be better, and, you know, I can look at something and do that, I'm gonna try and do it. So I agree with everything you're saying, Sean.
I think that's just a mindset that people have who do individual sports, magic, poker, golf, whatever, because you're playing against yourself at the end of the day. Even though in magic there's an opponent sitting right across the table from us who you are trying to beat, you're really trying to beat yourself, and you're trying to be better than you were, right? You're trying to improve your little. Like, I ran cross country in high school and I play golf, and I'm always looking to, like, okay, I shot a whatever on these 18 holes. Today I want to try to shoot 2 under that. Or I ran a 5K in 1640. Let's see if I can hit 1630. And so it's all about challenging yourself and pushing yourself and that self-improvement. And I think that's a great mindset that Magic players have. That, like I said, I don't think a lot of people ever think about something like that, of, like, internally looking inside of you and what you're doing. And, like, I'm super nitpicky when I cook. I'll cook something and someone will be like, this was delicious. And I'll be like, I oversalted it. The pepper was too strong. I should have cooked it this way, or less butter. And they'll just be like, it was delicious. And I was like, no, it wasn't. Don't tell me that. Because if you just tell me it's delicious and I just believe that it's delicious, then I'm never going to get better at cooking. It's just the same thing with Magic.
Yeah. All right, guys. I have Avengers, and Brandon has Avengers to get to soon.
I got to drive to West Valley.
So
before we go, though, I have one more thing to say. It'll be really quick. Under the Master's eye, skills are honed sharper and spells cut deeper.
What is that, the flavors tech too?
You get one guess.
Is that
Training Grounds?
Yeah. Well, right now we can close Training Grounds. Now Spencer knows the flavor text for Training Grounds. # always improving. Way to go, Spencer. All right, we can get out of here.
Not Pauper.
No.
Oh man, I didn't know that you had your
Training
soundboard
ground.
on.
It's always on.
Oh, thank you for that, Brandon. I honestly,
I do my part.
I really appreciate you guys coming on. Common Knowledge was the reason that I wanted it so bad, because I was having so much fun playing Pauper. It was right before my son was born, and I just was really enjoying the format, and, you know, I wanted to get better in new ways. And I really think that if you want to just improve at Magic the Gathering, it's just up to you. You can do it. There's nothing stopping you from being better tomorrow than you were today, other than your effort and your mindset. And I hope that people know that. Like, I hope that people don't think that, that they'll never be better. Because I have done podcasts with Jerry Thompson, who came on my podcast and said, if I can top 8 a Pro Tour, you can. Like, I've been playing Magic for 12 years. It took me 12 years. It might not have been that long, but he comes on and talks. He gives this big year length, and for me, somebody who'd been playing Magic for 2 or 3 years at the time competitively thought, okay, so it's hard. Like, it takes a while. But if you want to get better and you can dedicate time to doing it, then go for it. Like you can do it, and you can do it through Pauper. You can do it through Limited. You can do it through Constructed. It doesn't really matter what it is. It's just about the mindset that you have and the actual want to improve. So,
dabbing on him.
So, if people want to listen to Common Knowledge and get better and listen about Pauper, where can they do that?
Without bringing up our show notes, I have no idea.
If you want to get a hold of Pauper, you can find it on the Constructed Criticism YouTube page where we post the videos. So if you haven't already done yet, go and like and subscribe and favorite and smash that like button, bro, and do all that YouTube stuff. Also, you'll be supporting Spencer. So win, because Sean too is going to win. So 6 wins. No, how many wins? I don't know. Where else can they find? You can email us, commonknowledgemtg@gmail.com. You can find the show on Twitter at ckpodcast_CK podcast.
You guys don't know your stuff. You can
don't memorize it.
I just read the show notes every week. Oh gosh, it's something weird. I remember it was something weird. Funny story, talking to the professor at GP Vegas last year. Do you remember that? And thank you for everything you do in Pauper. I actually host a Pauper podcast with my friend here, and we just really appreciate everything you do. And he's like, oh, what podcast? I was like, oh, it's called Common Knowledge. And he's like, are you on Twitter? And we're like, yeah, we are. And he's like, just search for Common Knowledge. And I was like, yeah. And then we were like, wait, that's not it. It was something weird.
No, but really, the best way to find the show is really to go to the YouTube channel and the Constructed Criticism YouTube channel, where we have our own playlist. And if you look in the videos, we post weekly, so we're going to be mixed in there. There's links to the podcast if you just want to click that button and have it put into your iTunes or whatever. There's links to our Twitter channels. That's what those are called, Twitter channels. But everything's on that YouTube, so I'd say that's the best place to start.
Yeah, you can go to constructedcriticism.com/common knowledge to find the podcast each and every week. You can also find the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play. They don't know that I do all of that, but but you can also follow this podcast at CCMTG. You can support the show at patreon.com/CCMTG. Become a patron of the show, any dollar amount you see fit. You can go to patreon.com/common knowledge to support Common Knowledge. And don't forget their sponsor over at Pure MTGO and our sponsor over at Oasis Games. Thank you everybody so much for listening this week. Thank you so much to you two for coming on, filling in for Hall of Famer Seth Manfield, Gold Pro John Stern. I doubt anybody noticed the difference.
And some big shoes to fill.
Much higher meme value.
Yeah, we do deliver the meme value.
So thank you guys so much for coming on. Thank you everybody for listening. We'll see you guys all next week for another episode of Constructed Criticism.
Bye forever.
That's not true.